Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Nazaray, and today we are going to be going over the monster sets of PvE healing in the Elder Scrolls Online. I have broken up our sets into categories today. We will start first with the standard sets that you're going to want for everyday PvE healing. There are going to be some situational sets that you may want on occasion. Then we're going to have the niche sets, which you may want very rarely and for very specific scenarios. Then the safety sets, for if you're just looking to try and increase survivability to get a clear or a title as quickly as possible. And finally, we will have the beginning sets, which are the sets you're going to want to get if you can't get anything else yet, if you're just fresh starting out trying to get through things. So, getting into some of our standard sets, there's two here in particular that I think that all healers should have, no matter whether you're doing dungeons or trials. So the first one is going to be Ozezan the Inferno, which you get from Scrivener's Hall, which is a DLC dungeon. The first line on it gives 129 magicka recovery. Overhealing grants 4,272 armor for 1.1 seconds, and also grants minor vitality for 1.1 second, increasing your target's healing received and damage shield strength by 6%. This one is really easy to proc 100% of the time. Overhealing is super easy to do in ESO. You have so much healing going out that it's almost difficult to not have people overhealing. As long as they are above 100% health, they are getting overhealed from any extra healing that goes on. The second set for our standard sets is Nazaray, which comes from Shipwright's Regret, which again is a DLC dungeon. The one piece for this provides 1200 maximum health. It also allows you to extend all major and minor debuffs to the 6 closest enemies within a 12-meter radius by 1 second per 20 ultimate spent. So if you have a 500 ultimate and you use that and proc Nazaray, you will extend those major and minor debuffs on your targets by 25 seconds. It does have a 30-second cooldown, so there is quite a length to the cooldown on it. It is particularly good on a healer when you are generating a lot of ultimate, or if you're running Pulls of Alona Fae. It does have a smaller range, so 12 meters is the same as the size of your barrier. You do need to make sure that you move in close to your targets to get the extension on their major and minor debuffs. Now getting into our situational sets. These are sets that you're going to want to have collected and ideally have them ready in your bank because your raid lead could ask for them at any point. So the very first one we're going to start with is Symphony of Blades. This one is an old school set that has been a meta for a long time. It drops from the DLC dungeon, Depths of Malatar, which can be a little bit harder to do, so I would suggest trying to go in with a couple of people that you know, whether they are from guild or whether they are actual friends. It is going to be a little bit harder to pug, particularly on a healer, but it's definitely still possible. So the one piece of this gives 4% healing done. The main thing with this, and the reason why it is not so favourable anymore, is that it increases recovery on people targeted. So when you heal someone who is below 50% of their primary resource, they gain Meridia's Favor. Meridia's Favor restores 570 magicka or stamina every second for 6 seconds based on the highest maximum resource. So this kind of absolutely jacks recovery through the roof on the targets. And the reason that this isn't so good anymore is we have a lot of DDs who are often wearing Coral Riptide. Now Coral Riptide requires the wearers to have their stamina percent between 30 and 50% to get the most benefit out of their set. If you start jacking their recovery through the roof because you have Symphony of Blades on, they're going to struggle to maintain lower stamina, and then their damage is going to go down as a result. So if people are not in Coral Riptide or similar sets such as Martial Knowledge or Barse, this is going to be a nice set for them to have. This is nice for supports, this is nice for people not in those sets, but where a lot of groups are stacked in those sets, wearing Symphony of Blades is going to reduce their damage, which is then going to make you have to play more mechanics, and then you have more room for error, more likely people are going to die, more likely you're going to wipe. So Symphony is kind of a very situational set at this point now. It does have an 18-second cooldown on each target, so if you're proccing it off of cooldown every single time, it'll have 12 seconds downtime. Our second situational set is Encratis Behemoth, which drops from Black Drake Villa, which is another DLC dungeon. This one is typically worn on a tank or on your Zen DK, but can sometimes still be worn on a healer, so I would recommend still collecting it. The one piece of this gives you 1096 max magicka. When you deal flame damage to an enemy, you get Behemoth's aura around you, which is a big AoE with a 12 meter radius, which again is the same size as barrier. This aura lasts for 12 seconds. You and up to 11 members in the aura reduce your flame damage taken by 5%, so it's going to make you guys a little more survivable in areas where there's a lot of flame damage. Now enemies also in the aura increase their flame damage taken by 5%, so it's going to buff any flame damage in your group. There is a 15-second cooldown off the initial proc, which means if you are proccing it as soon as it's off cooldown, you have 3 seconds of downtime. Now on a healer, if you're running this, you could proc it with Blockade from your Flame Staff, you could do Scalding Rune from the Mage's Guild, or you could use a variety of flame damage or flame dot scribing skills. You're usually going to want this in a group if you have a significant amount of flame damage in there. It doesn't have to be an insane amount, so usually if people are running wall on their back bar, this set is going to be important to have. If you have a lot of DKs, you absolutely want to have this set. So listen to your raid leads, trust their judgment on it, and have it ready if they need it. The last one in this section is Archdruid Devyric. This one is from Earthenroot Enclave, which again is a DLC dungeon. The one piece of it gives 1400 offensive penetration, which isn't super important on a healer. The main thing that this one does is it applies major vulnerability for 7 seconds off of a heavy attack or a medium attack to up to 6 enemies within a 7 by 5 meter line from the target. The problem with this set is that once you proc it with your heavy to medium attack, there is still a 2-second time for the little bear that summons to then summon and roar onto the targets and proc major vulnerability. So what happens in this time is very often you will proc the set with your heavy or medium attack, and then the target will step towards you before the bear is summoned. So then the target doesn't get major vulnerability. So usually you want to proc this a second or two after the ads have already been pulled so that they are more in the position to hit as many targets as possible. There is a 15-second cooldown on this one, so if you are proccing it off cooldown, you have 8 seconds of downtime. This set in particular is really good on trash packs for alternating major vulnerability between yourself and another support. It is also really good on bosses just for trying to fill in any downtime you might get. So usually major vulnerability is sourced from a Colossus or Turning Tide, but we are getting a few more ways to do it now, including with Archdruid. Now we are getting into some of our niche sets. These sets are not super common, and I do not think these are sets that you need to have, but if at any point your raid leads ask for them, you should probably just go and get them pretty quickly. So they're not going to be bad ones to have collected, but you don't necessarily need to have them ready on the go. The first one here is going to be Nunatak, which drops in Imperial City from the boss Nunatak in the Memorial District. It gives 1400 armor. The big thing that this one does is it procs Major Brittle, which gives a 20% increase in critical damage taken on a target. So we talked before in my last video about how DDs have to make penetration cap. They also want to make crit cap, which is at 125%. Usually we do this with things like Minor Force and Major Force. Major Force we get from Warhorn, but in this case you could substitute your Warhorn with Major Brittle procs from Nunatak. Now, the conditions on this is it requires you to deal frost damage to proc the set, and then the target has to take 4 ticks of frost damage from the AoE that spawns from the set before it gets Major Brittle. Now, Major Brittle from the set only lasts for 4 seconds, but you can extend this with Nazaray. So if you have a 500 Nazaray ready to extend it, or someone in your group has a 500 Nazaray ready to extend it, that'll give you 29 seconds of Major Brittle. It is particularly difficult to track on console. You do have to watch the debuff on the target rather than have an add-on tell you. This is kind of a min-max set. This is not going to be a set you're going to use in your everyday raids or everyday progs, but it might be something that is required or requested of you later on if you're trying to push anything a little harder or min-max a little bit more. And Shulking is our other niche set. This one comes from Blessed Crucible, which is a base game dungeon. This one is pretty easy to get. This is an older set again. It used to be a lot more common before scribing was a thing. With scribing there has been less and less need for it, and as healing potential has gone up there has been less need for it. So the one piece gives 4% healing done, which is just going to increase your actual healing. When you heal someone who stays below 50% health, their health recovery is increased by 925 for 10 seconds. So that's almost a 1k increase in their health recovery. This can help heal people if they are in a position where they are taking a lot of damage or need a lot of healing. So situations where this set used to particularly excel was in Sunspire hard mode on Locestes with the cages or the tombs. This is not needed so much anymore, but it can still be really helpful if you're struggling, if you're a newer healer, or if you're in a very niche scenario where you guys end up needing this. Beginning step into our little, almost more controversial section now, we're going to talk about safety sets. The sets in this category are put here deliberately because they are going to help your group get through content. So if you are your first time trying to do a hard mode, or you're just trying to pop out a title clear and you guys are struggling with survivability for various reasons, these sets will likely help you out. The first one I'm going to start with I think is significantly better than the other set. This one is one that I don't see people using a lot, and there are a couple of reasons why. So the first set is Lord Warden, which drops from Imperial City Prison. This one provides you with 1400 armor, which again, not something you're generally speccing to in as a healer. When you take damage, you have a 50% chance to summon a Shadow Orb. The Shadow Orb increases physical and spell resistances of you and your group members within 8 meters by 3,180. Now 8 meters is a pretty small range, so that's our first drawback, is the range is very small. Our second drawback is that this is fixed in a location that it procs. So it is not good for mobile fights. This set is going to be absolutely useless in mobile fights. You're not going to get a lot of use out of it. But if you are doing Ansel hard mode, which is where people run a lot of safety sets, I think this set would be really strong on a group healer if you're trying to get your first clear or get your first titles in there. It does have a 10-second cooldown, so if you're proccing it off cooldown, it only has 2 seconds of downtime. Now you might say, well, healers aren't supposed to take damage. You're right, they're not, but in trials like Ansel hard mode, there is a lot of outgoing damage across the group, so you are going to still end up proccing this set pretty much on cooldown. Anywhere where a Nord healer might excel for the ulti-gen, which also has the caveat where you have to take damage to gen the ultimate, this set will work the same way. So kind of think about damage. Now other trials where you take a lot of damage are things like Rockgrove hard mode. You take a lot of damage in every single fight of those, it's just a lot of small AoE damage going out in every fight. This set's not going to be as good there, because those fights are typically very mobile, and this set is stationary. So you kind of have to think about it situationally on, are we actually going to get use out of this set? So our second safety set, and the set that I disagree with the use of a lot, and I'll explain why in a moment, is the Blind. This set drops from Bedlam Vale, which is a newer DLC dungeon. It is a little bit harder to do, so again, try and go in with a group that you at least somewhat know. The first piece of this set gives you 657 critical chance. The second piece allows, when you critically heal a target, for them to gain a 2,692 damage shield for 6 seconds. When the shield is active and for 3 seconds after, the target gains minor force, which increases their critical damage by 10%. Now, the reason I think this set is pretty useless is that right now the meta for damage dealers, almost completely across the board, is for them to run Velothi. Now Velothi gives them minor force, which increases their critical damage by 10%. This is the same buff. It doesn't stack, it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't add. It's just the buff. So they already have minor force. So if they've already got minor force, and if they don't have Velothi, they often have minor force from Trap, from the Fighters Guild skill line. If they already have minor force, the only thing that the Blind is giving us is increased critical chance and a 2.6k damage shield when you critically heal. As healers, we mentioned before in the previous video, we don't spec into crit healing, so this set is probably not proccing as often as it really should for the way that it's designed. On top of that, a 2.6k damage shield is very small. It's negligible, it's not really doing anything. This is why I do not think this set warrants the amount of praise and use that it gets. It is, in my opinion, currently a pretty weak set. Okay, so all of those sets are absolutely awesome if you are trying to do harder content. So if you're already in vet trials and you're trying to do some vet hard modes or trying to do some trifectas, some of them are great in PvP as well. But you're a brand new healer and you haven't healed anything and you're just trying to get stuff and you don't know people yet. That's okay. There are 2 base game dungeon sets that I want to recommend as well for you just to grab if you are just starting out, you're leveling your account for the first time, and you're just getting into this content. There are sets that you can wear that are going to help you healing wise. They are not going to be things you should be wearing in trial hard modes or trial trifectas, but they are perfectly acceptable to help you get to that point. So the first one that we're going to touch on is Bogdan the Nightflame. This one comes up under Nightflame if you search for it. It drops from Elden Hollow 2. You still need to do the dungeon on Vet to get the monster helm to drop, unfortunately. But these are both pretty easy dungeons. So the Nightflame adds 1096 max magicka, so it increases your mag pool to increase your healing. Upon healing, you have a 20% chance to summon a totem. The totem heals you and your allies for 704 health every 1 second for 6 seconds in a 5 meter radius. So the AoE is pretty small for the totem, but if you're in group, you'll still have that extra healing going out. This one's a good starter set for PvP as well. Now there is a 10-second cooldown on this set, but if you proc it off cooldown, you only end up with 4-second downtime. This just will help you increase your amount of healing going out, which can really help when you're learning and you're trying to get familiar with your skills and your sets and everything else. It's just going to make it a little easier to keep people alive. The second set I want to touch on for beginners is Sentinel of Rkugamz, which drops from Darkshade Caverns 1. Again, this is a very easy dungeon to do, even if it's your first time on Vet. You don't need a healer for this dungeon, you can run 3 damage dealers and it'll be easier, but if you're on a healer, you should totally be fine as well. This set gives you 4% increased healing done. It also allows you to summon a Dwemer Spider when you heal, that heals for 1000 health and restores 125 magicka and stamina for you and your allies within the 5 meter radius every 1 second for 8 seconds. So again, this has a very small AoE. Fortunately, when you're running dungeons, resource sustain is usually really bad. So running something like Sentinel when you're trying to get through and just get your monster helms for the first time is going to help out quite a bit. It does have a 15-second cooldown, which results in a total 7 seconds of downtime if you proc it on cooldown every time. Alright, with that concludes the entirety of this video. We will be back in the future with videos going over different things such as courage sets and slayer sets. Eventually we may have a scribing video, things like that. So if you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye!